So, as I'm sure many of you are aware, Juneteenth has been recognized as a national federal holiday officially as of June 17th. Juneteenth is now a national holiday. And a lot of people are coming out in droves to celebrate and be happy and rejoice. And I'm not here to say that those people are wrong in doing so, and I'm not here to be angry about the fact that Juneteenth is a national holiday. I think that it's a positive thing, and I'm glad that it happened. And I don't hate the decision. I like the decision. But we have the corporate Democrats and all of the corrupt individuals in Washington coming out and clapping and doing backflips and saying that we did it. We did it. We ended racism. We ended it. Everything's fine now. Juneteenth's the holiday. We're good. And that's why I'm making this video. Not to really talk about Juneteenth and critical race theory, which is something that I will bring up in this video, but to remind you about the fight that is currently going on and to just remind you not to deter from that and not to lose sight of the goals and not allow your attention to deviate from what you really need to be paying attention to. So, I'll start off by giving you the reaction from the right-wing hacks, because it's always funny to bash these individuals because they're incredibly stupid. So first and foremost, you have Charlie Kirk. So this is a tweet from, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he says, "I'm kind of amazed that these folks are passing up an opportunity to do the Republicans freed the slaves / Democrats are the party of slavery bit." And we'll get to that in a second. But Charlie Kirk says making Juneteenth a federal holiday isn't about emancipation of slaves. If it was, they would make September 22nd, Emancipation Proclamation Day, a federal holiday. This is about replacing July the 4th. Just like the 1619 Project is about replacing the 1776 Project. Conservatives must reject this. And so that's his line of attack. And as this guy just said about Republicans not using this opportunity to push that narrative of the Republicans freed the slaves, here's Laverne Spicer. She's a Republican candidate for Florida. She says, AOC, nobody wants to deny Juneteenth as a national holiday. But let's all remember that it was the Democrats who caused slavery. Here it goes. And it was the Republicans, like Lincoln, who fought to end it. It's like they don't know history. It's like they don't know that today's Republicans were the Democrats of the past and vice versa. It's quite hilarious, honestly, that they push this nonsense. But this has come around. This topic of debate of Juneteenth and what it means and also the nonsense has come around in the same time that there's this big and growing debate about critical race theory. Now, as I stated previously, I won't divulge into what critical race theory is and what Juneteenth really means, because I don't want this video to be about that. If you want to learn more about that, I implore you to look it up on your own. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but it is what it is. What I want to discuss is that how people are using these terms to fuel culture war debates and further distract you from the problems that this country actually faces. So first of all, in regards to Juneteenth, they make Juneteenth a federal holiday. Great. Okay, let's recognize that as a holiday. But where's the police reform? You want to help black people. Helping black people materially isn't making Juneteenth a holiday. Helping black people materially is changing the way we police in this country. And a lot of people will balk at police reform because a lot of people don't even think that this system can be reformed. And they have ground to stand on there, I might add. Where is Medicare for all? Where's the nationalized healthcare system? If you do Medicare for all, do you know how many African Americans you would help by doing that? What about eliminating student loan debt? African Americans are the most prominent group to take out student loans to pay for their college. That would overwhelmingly help them. It's a universal thing, like it would help everyone, but it would also help African Americans. You see what I mean? they'll always cave on the symbolism. In the year of 2020, when George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake, and all these other African Americans either lost their life or were subjected to police brutality, and there were these massive protests, what did the people in Washington do? They got on their knees, they tweeted out photos, and they said kind words. Did they pass any kind of dramatic, life-changing legislation that would help any specific population, specifically black people? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. And they will continue to push narratives and continue to do the symbolism. So they'll, stop making Uncle Ben stuff. They'll take Confederate monuments down. They'll, do whatever they need to do to not actually change the way the system works. And I want you to recognize this and realize what's unfolding before our very eyes. You're being distracted right now. You are. But you don't have to allow yourself to fall down the pit of the culture war and these idiot right-wing goons that are pushing the narrative that Juneteenth is here to replace the 4th of July. You see, that's a revanchist movement from a population that feels like something is being taken from them. That's all that is. And might I also add that this Juneteenth news is coming at around the same time that we are getting news that Joe Biden wants to double federal funding for a program that pays state/local governments to hire more police officers. This is not a joke. This is an article on Substack from Stephen Simler that says the following. The Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services is a component of the Department of Justice that administers grants to state and local tribal police forces. Biden more than doubled its funding in his budget request for fiscal year 2022. This year's enacted funding is $156.5 million. Biden requested $388 million or more than all COPS grant programs got in the fiscal year 2021 combined. And essentially what this program is it's a program to, in a nutshell, hire more police. So Biden wants even more police on the streets. After seeing what's happened over the course of this past year and this year, he wants even more police, and he wants to give them even more artillery. This is a statement from him. Policing works best when officers are out of their cruisers and walking the streets, engaging with and getting to know members of their communities. But in order to do that, police departments need resources to hire a sufficient number of officers. However, the COPS program has never been funded to fulfill the original vision for community policing. This is typical neoliberal thinking at its finest. How do we solve police brutality? More police, more funding, more money. It's like when they increase the NSA spying every year. It's like when they increase the military budget every year. I mean, that is harrowing to hear. In order to decrease police violence, let's hire more police and give them more resources. I mean, words can't accurately describe how asinine that way of thinking is. But this is just the latest, okay? With the critical race theory thing, they're literally trying to change the way people look at American history. If you are caught up with what happened with how this country was founded, if you know about slavery and the ins and outs of it, you know that the rhetoric that these right-wingers are pushing when it comes to something like critical race theory is a bunch of jargon. It's a bunch of mumbo-jumbo and it makes no sense. But that's what they want this to be. They want to pretend like the bad things that happened in this country just never happened. And if it did happen, there was always a reason for it. You have Ted Cruz conflating people that believe in critical race theory, people that would want that being taught to children, right? He conflates them with members of the KKK, that they're just as racist as them. That's how hyperbolic and idiotic these people have become. Or not even have become, they've always been that insane. But before our very eyes, they're trying to tell us that what actually happened back in the day didn't actually happen. And it's incredibly striking. But I say all of that to say, don't let that drag you into the weeds, and don't let that deter you from what's actually happening right now. We still don't have a nationalized healthcare system. 45,000 to 60,000 people die every year from not having adequate healthcare. The minimum wage in this country has not been raised in I don't know how long. It's not a living wage, it's a poverty wage. Okay? The Democrats had the chance to raise it, and they didn't. We're still fighting wars, okay, across the world. We have over 800 military bases across the world. Our military budget is bigger than the next 10 countries combined, and many of those countries are our allies. Please, for the love of God, do not forget the problems that this country faces just because people are bringing up critical race theory and they're trying to push Juneteenth as some kind of big reparation for African Americans, when in reality, it's another virtue signaling exercise so that they don't actually have to improve the lives of the people that they say they care so much about.